Gorgeous souls, welcome to the Jaclyn Shaw Show. I am so excited for the conversation that I am about to have with my guest today. Her and I met recently at an event that we were both speaking at, and then we've just recorded for her podcast, and now getting to bring her on here to share her wisdom and her magic with you. Jenn Pike, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's so great to see you again, 5 minutes apart.
I mean, it really is. I love we said this to each other, like being able to flow from the conversation we just had into this space is so incredible. And also the fact that we're supposed to record these podcasts earlier before
Yeah.
we met in person. And the fact that we've now got to meet in person and then record. There's things that you said on stage that I absolutely want to dive into today. And before we get there, for those of you who are new to Jenn, Jenn is the founder and the CEO of the Simplicity Project, which is a women's health and business empire built on one foundational truth. Your body is your most valuable business asset. I love in our conversations that you and I have had so far, when I heard you speak from stage, you said something on stage where you said, before you put something in it, understand the body you wake up every day. And I've heard you say things like, understand what you put in your body first, and everything else, including your revenue, follows. Bring us into your work, your magic, the beliefs around this. I feel like even calling it beliefs doesn't do it justice, because I feel like this is like what your years of work has shown you, your studies, what you know. So tell us more.
Yeah, it is. And this really, I mean, my work is an extension of who I am and really who I've always been and continuing to evolve into. So I've been in this line of work with this company for 30 years. I registered it when I was 17. This fall, the company will be 30 years. Over the last, I would say 18 to 20 is really where I dug my heels in a little more and like, okay, this is what I'm here for. This is my purpose. And that was after 10 years of, doing it as a solopreneur, having my first child at 26. And when I had my daughter, that really woke up something very like raw and unfiltered and visceral in me, which was just this realization of how much as women we have not been taught about our bodies. And that this is like, I believe the human body as a whole is the greatest gift, but a woman's body honestly holds so many superpowers, so much knowledge, so much wisdom. I believe this is where we tap into the whole lineage of women that have come before us. And so I really made it my mission to start to do just that, teach women all the things that we should have been taught, have the conversations that we were taught were bathroom talk and embarrassing and awkward and shouldn't be talked about out in public. And I just started to have those conversations. And, then when I had my son, it's interesting in my industry, raising a girl and raising a boy was different through the lens of, well, am I going to make a conscious choice to teach my daughter in secret and not have my son hear the conversations? Or am I going to teach in a way that I wish boys also understood about women's bodies, about their own body? And so, motherhood really cracked up a whole nother layer within me of how I wanted to teach and what I wanted to teach. And in doing all of this with women and then running a business, multiple different programs, doing business mentorship, I really do believe that it is body first and business second. And when I've tried to do it the other way, which is just follow a system and a structure and lead with the business and only the KPIs and the revenue and the numbers, then my body suffers. As where if I start with my body, my business always prospers. That's really where it's all come from.
Yeah, I'm so ready for this conversation, so fascinated by about what we're going to dive into, because I feel like you and I both lead a lot of women in business and a lot
Mm.
of, I'm going to say business mentorship, but not through the business lens, not
Yeah.
through strategy. So for me, it's about energetics and spirit and connecting to the God within you and how that impacts your revenue. And it's like, for me, it's God and money. And for you, you talk a lot about your body being a pathway to create revenue and to create wealth. And you built a multi-million dollar business in doing so. And typically these conversations stay separate. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to be the person who talks about the body. And then I'm going to be the person who talks about God. And then there's someone else who talks about business. And I know for myself, there was this point where I was like, no, like I am here to lead in like the conversation of spirits, energetic, and business, like God and money together. Have you always led with body and business, or has it looked different?
I really have, and I didn't realize that I had until probably about 6 years ago when I had this, feeling like I wanted to create this program back in 2020, and I called it The Audacious Woman, and my whole thing was 10 women, 10 months, business, body, and life. Like, let's stop separating everything. Like, when we separate the things, we separate who we are. And I have worked with women clinically, since 2001 in women's health and hormones, fitness, nutrition. And every woman I worked with, she was cutting herself off somewhere and trying to edify and like, well, there's only this area of my life where I'm feeling this and this little box over here. And I was like, this is not how it works. Like, we are this entire ecosystem and we got to get everything in alignment if we want these areas of our life to actually feel good, and feel fulfilled. And so, I was just teaching at who was one of my mentors forever. And the fact that I now teach inside her inner circle business mastermind just is like, and this was my second year being asked to come back. And I still get in the room and I'm like, is this even real life? And, I was asked a very simple question. And I answered this question and she just turned to me in front of everyone. She goes like, you literally can't not teach. Like, it is just in you. It is who you are. And I owned that. And that's been one of the things as well, too, as a woman, is like receiving and owning the recognition of what our gifts are and not trying to like deflect it or hide it and, put it away. And I see that in other women. So when I'm working with women, whether it's on their health or it's on their business, oftentimes at this point in my career, I'm tracking the woman who is in leadership and her body. So she's like, how do I do this and not die? Like, literally, she's like, how do I not always feel like I'm surviving and sacrificing? So there is this duality that society and our structures have made separate that I don't see separate at all. Like, I see the whole woman, and that's the lens I teach through.
Mm, I absolutely love that you see the whole woman. And as I hear you speak this, I can't help but feel though that there's a lot of people that are listening that they tend to say things like, okay, well, I'll focus on, my body or my health once I hit this level of success
Yeah.
or once this happens.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I think the reason we say that is because we think each is so hard. So we think it's hard to be healthy and that there's a lot we have to change in order to see and feel the results. And then building a business is hard and there's a lot we have to do and implement to maintain that. Motherhood is challenging, owning a home, like, and in each of these rights, like, these are challenging things, right? Like, the duality of all of that is a lot. But I mean, my whole lens is simplicity. We make it so much harder than it actually has to be. So, a small example would be for the woman who's already feeling overwhelmed and tapped and saying, I'll get my health in check when I hit the numbers in my business, when we get through the next launch, when we get through writing the next book, when I facilitate the next program. It's like, but how about just each day when you're working on those things, you drink like 2 more glasses of water than you did any other day before? And, by getting in, that half liter of water, you being more hydrated is going to make your brain feel more on fire and more on point. And you probably won't have the cravings that you've had. And you will probably have better motility in your gut. And your skin will probably be clear from one thing. So I'm a huge believer in the one simple thing. And I have this rule of like, the 1 to 2, maybe 3 is kind of how I reference it. I'm like, let's just pick 1, maybe 2 new habits that you're going to implement, and that's it. And you're going to do these until you get to the point where you're like, this is like brushing my teeth. Never could I imagine going through a day without waking up and going to bed with my teeth brushed. Well, you're eventually going to feel like that about your water. You're eventually going to feel like that about your walk or your bath or your, whatever that thing is. But can we just start with the 1, 2? And my most successful clients are the most boring. They're the most boring and they're the most consistent. They're not the ones chasing a new plan, a new program, a new fad, a quick fix, a shortcut. Like, those women in the long term, the ones that are constantly chasing, waking up every day, tuning into TikTok and to Instagram to like discover what the latest, greatest thing is, they will spend more time, money, and energy circling the drain to still not have long-term sustainable success in either of the areas.
Mm. Well, what I feel like you just like hit there, one feels like going outside of self, one feels like chasing, one feels like, following the trend, like looking for that thing that magic, pill outside versus okay, like coming home to self, putting your body, your being, your soul, your spirit first. And so I talk about this all the time on this podcast and in the work like we've got to go inside, not outside.
Yeah. But
You
that
know,
is very scary for a lot of women because unless you grew up in a home where this was modeled for you by your mother, your grandmothers, your aunts, your sisters, very few women have been taught to trust their body, let alone listen to their body. What we've been taught is something goes wrong, go to the doctor. Let them tell you what's going on. Something doesn't feel right, ask someone else. Let them tell you. And a lot of that model, I mean, I'm grateful that there's the accessibility to that. I am a healthcare practitioner, but I don't view my role in telling anyone anything. I teach. So it is, if you're going to work with somebody who's going to be more curious about what's going on instead of being like, I know exactly what's happening here. Because the reality is, if you, the woman, don't know exactly what's happening, I can't know what's happening. And it's our default as a woman to say, well, like if I were to say to you, well, Jaclyn, why do you think that you're feeling the way that you're feeling? I don't know. Or it's my hormones, it's perimenopause, it's, my thyroid's out of whack again, it's this, it's that. And those things can be part of it. But like in my world right now, I am mainly working with women in their late 30s into their early 60s. So they're in that perimenopausal menopause post window. Some of them are also postpartum, right? Coming into this time of life. And so there's a ton of noise. It is the noisiest market right now, and it will continue to be for the next X amount of years. So you get very distracted of what you're actually feeling, and you get told this is what's going on. And a lot of women believe that, well, perimenopause is causing me to feel the way that I'm feeling. Menopause, it's causing me being in my 50s, that's causing this. And it's like, no, all these phases and transitions we're going to go through, they're really a litmus test. They are going to amplify and show us where the inflammation, the vulnerability was in our bodies or in our life. And that is what is going to bring the symptoms forward.
mm. I love this and I want to dive deeper here because I feel like, and see this in so many different ways. It's like, okay, well, this just is. So, like, this is, I'm in perimenopause, so this will be the experience. Or if we go in a totally different realm, it's like, I'm this in my human design. And so I'm limited here. Like, this just has to be my experience or whatever it is. And so we use these experiences, these labels, all of these tools that I feel are here to support us. And we actually create limitation through them.
100%. But again, this is what we've been taught. So you can go as far back to being like, we've been conditioned to have a label and to have a box and like fit tidily inside of that. So whether we're talking about it through the health lens and it is, a diagnosis, you go and you connect with a healthcare professional until you get a diagnosis. And then the diagnosis is going to lead to an intervention, which is either going to be a prescription, a procedure, something like that. In business, it's like, okay, we're looking for where do you sit in the C-suite? Are you the founder? Are you the CEO? Are you the director? Are you the operational manager? Like, give me the label. We're looking for it everywhere because we believe if we have a label, there's a construct that now gives us direction. And in a woman's body, the only direction that you should ever be following and have is that of yourself. But again, if you don't understand the language of your own body, you're like, I feel like I need subtitles. Like, this is a foreign language. I don't know why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. And with so many of the women that I work with in this age group, they will also say things like, I used to feel like this. My body used to respond like this. Everything I'm trying to do now, which is what used to work then, doesn't work anymore. And they're just spinning their wheels because, again, it's like trying to fit back into this box or back into this period of time without appreciating not only is your body, aging, chronologically and biologically, but we also are like on purpose moving through different eras of our life. So the woman you were in your 20s your body, your business, your relationships, not the same woman you were in your 30s, your 40s. Like every decade is bringing something different. And then within those decades, it's like, I'm 46 years old. In the last 6 years, I think I've been six different versions of the woman that I am. And thankfully, I have the ability to recognize and see that and adjust to those shifts instead of what so many of us are taught is you just force yourself into this period of time versus like I always say to women, if you feel like you live your life marching forward in line, time to butt those elbows out. Like you need more spaciousness, you need more self awareness. And that can't happen if every day you are looking to someone else to tell you what it is that's going on.
So what does this look like? What does this look like in a woman, in a business owner, in a leader's like life? What does it look like when they step in and they come to work with you? Like where are you guiding women at the beginning?
At the beginning is like, tell me more about how you're feeling. And like, not just like, I'm feeling tired. We are spending time together to pull that apart. So I really find the best way is doing like timeline. And timeline is let's talk about how you're feeling today, because I really want to understand that. And then we're going to go all the way back to understand how we got to today. Because the woman that we are right now, you and I in this moment, that woman who is listening on her walk or in the car, we are the sum of all the experiences physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and soulfully that have led up to right now. We are not the result of what we ate on the weekend, the glass of wine we had 2 weeks ago. That's not who's making up who we are today. So it's looking back and understanding like, how long have you felt like this for? So if we go back to that time and you say to me it was in like, 2018 that you started to notice certain symptoms or feeling. Well, what was actually happening in your life and in your world in 2018? Were there any big changes in your home, in your job? Did you move in your marriage? Anything like that. And then we go back even further, like depending on why the woman is coming to me and into our programs, because the majority of the way I work with women now are in group programs. We will do these timelines as a group, and it's going back and being like, do you know what your mother's pregnancy and delivery was like with you? Because that has an imprint. What was your health like in your environment as a child growing up? Was it a safe environment? Was it a healthy environment? Did you have to parent yourself from a very young age? All those things matter. Well, what was it like when you became a tween and a teen? How old were you when you got your period? Can you describe to me what it felt like when you got your period? Was it manageable? Was it hard, painful? Were you put on a pill right away and early? What about when you were in your later teens and coming into your 20s? What was going on in life then? Well, how did you feel in that time? And for some women, it's like such an emotional journey for them as they go back to come forward. And then for other women, they're like, I don't remember. I don't remember. Like it's totally blocked off. Like there is such a level of disconnect. And for me, this really helps me to understand that that woman who's disconnected, it is not going to be as simple as me saying, go and drink more water, because she's not going to resonate as to why that matters. If she's never taken care of herself up to this point in a way that's been really nurturing and nourishing, she's not going to care if she's dehydrated. She just wants you to tell her the thing that's going to make the 10 pounds drop off. So that first step is ask yourself each day, like, how am I really feeling? So if you wake up, you're like, you slept all night and you're like, God, I'm so tired. Why are you tired? Do you actually think that it was your mattress or your pillow, or that you don't have the organic bedding and, the Zen environment? Or are you tired because you're walking around carrying an invisible weighted vest that you've had on for so many fucking years and you are just so drained? You are depleted at a soul level that's why you're exhausted. It has nothing to do with your actual environment outside. It's what's happening inside. And sometimes the opposite is true, where it's like, I'll give you this example. I've been traveling a ton over the last couple of years on speaking tours. And about 2 years ago, I started to notice that my sleep was a little bit lighter. And I was like, oh, I'm 44, like it's, probably perimenopause. And that could have been my one truth. But then I also started to recognize like, we have a dog that's older and she likes to come onto our bed at like 5 in the morning and just stretch, wake us up, and then turn around and she'll go back to bed. But we don't go back to bed. I have children who are almost in their 20s now who go out when I'm going to sleep. And I don't really sleep that well if my kids aren't in my home. My husband, is like 1 million degrees while he is sleeping and the covers are on and the covers are off. So there's all these things happening in my environment that started to disrupt my sleep. But if I ignored those and I was like, oh, I'm 44 and I'm not sleeping great, perimenopause, when I started to travel and I was sleeping in hotels more often on my own, I was sleeping so solid. And I was like, I am not the problem. It is not my it's not my bu it's the covers on and off, it's the dog on the bed, it's the kids in and out, it's the environment, and so we do this as women all the time. We think like, "Oh, the problem is me," and it's like, "Okay, let's just sit you down for a second and let's talk about all the things happening in your life and all the things happening around you." Because if I go build out this protocol of supplements or hormones or whatever it is, thinking it's all you in your system, but in fact, it is your environment. This is the example I like to give where, like, if you are not the problem, then you're not coming to work with me to only work on your hormones and your physical health. We need to establish some other things in your environment that are impacting your health.
Mm. So we can look at the things that are in your environment as well. And then what about like when you said your kids are older and when they're not home, you're just not sleeping as well.
Yeah.
How does that impact? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so this is a great one too, because, when my kids were 5 years younger, I was the one saying, make sure your Wi-Fi is turned off at night. Don't have your phone charging near the bed, da 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 da. My Wi-Fi is on at night. My phone is near my head because if my children aren't home and they need me, I want them to be able to get in touch. And then people say, but don't you have a landline? I'm like, do you think this generation of kids is going to remember their home phone number coming home? Like they live in a digital world. And so there's lots of things now that interrupt that. And so for me, my evening routine anchors me. So I'm not, watching TV at night or doing those things. I am like taking the time to get into my room early. I'm usually in my room by, like 9 o'clock at the latest, spending time doing my face care stuff. I get into bed. I read a book. I get to bed early. Like I'm lights out by 9:30, 9:45 at the latest. Cause I've noticed for me, I will sleep much better in the earlier part of the night as where come 1, 2, 3 o'clock when maybe my daughter's supposed to be getting home from work on the weekend when they might be coming in. Every little sound, I'll be like, is that them? Is that them? So I've learned I have to front load my sleep because I'm probably going to have an interrupted moment in the middle of the night. Blackout blinds, eye mask, like all those other things. And then also just knowing that this isn't every single night, right? Like it's mainly Friday, Saturday, sometimes during the week. So I just make sure on those days that I am taking my care of myself a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that we're having this conversation because I think that in so many different ways, again, it's like these boxes, these things like, well, I need to do this. And if I'm not doing this every single night, and if I'm not making sure this is happening, and if I'm not at 5 a.m. checking things off the list, it's like, well, I'm not really doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And like you've shared there, there's ways that you adjust knowing that you're not going to change the circumstance of your kids coming in at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. You're not going to change the fact that when you hear the noises, you are aware, you are questioning if they're home. So how can you support yourself within the life experience?
Yeah. And this is why, like, how you live your life during the day, that's also super important. So, like making sure your blood sugar is balanced, you're eating enough of the right food, you're moving your body so that you are actually feeling good, even if you had a night of less than favorable sleep. Right. Those kind of things are important. And it's understanding this is a season of life. And in that season of life, like back in my 30s, I was the one getting up at 5 in the morning before the kids were awake to get things done, to work out, and that actually felt good. Getting up at 5 in the morning does not feel good to my body anymore. And I have zero attachment. And this was like, I had to decondition myself because so many of my business mentors were men or women who were functioning in a very masculine energy, taught me that you got to be part of the 5 a.m. club, that that's the only way you get things done is you get the work done while others are sleeping. And that worked for a period of time. And now at this stage, like, I don't want to wake up before 6 o'clock. And when I wake up at 6, I don't want to go right into work. I want to go move my body. I want to have a matcha. I want to sit and chill with my husband. I want to go for a walk outside. And now my power hours begin at like 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. So this belief that it's like you can only be successful if it looks this way and it happens in these hours, it's total BS.
question for you as you shifted this. And like you said, especially I think when you have a lot of mentors and a lot of this coding or these beliefs or people that have been telling you like this is the only way, and then you've been doing that for years. When you decided that you're like, no, I'm gonna sleep in later, I'm gonna have slower mornings, and I'm gonna have a matcha, and I'm gonna walk with my husband, and whatever it is, did you have like that resistance come up? Did you have beliefs come up that said like, oh, now your business is gonna start to decline, or now this isn't gonna happen? Like, was it easy for you to just decide, like, "I'm gonna choose what feels good for me," or was there that voice in your head that was like, "Well, now you're gonna have to, like, suffer from this. Now there's gonna be something that has to give because you're choosing not to be in the 5 AM club anymore."
When I really made the decision, so my company had started to get to a point where we were doing better month over month, year over year. And so, what I will say is because we were doing better, my nervous system was more relaxed. I wasn't feeling this like there's not enough. I got to repeat this again. There's not enough. For so long in my career, I was building out of survival and I could never allow myself, like, if I wasn't with my children, I had to be productive for the business because it was modeled for me as there's myself, my brother, and my sister, and my mom went back to work when my brother and I, who are the youngest, were 8 and 9, and my mom worked full time but also kept an impeccable home, cooked us all of our food and all of our lunches, and I saw that being modeled. And then my sister was a stay-at-home mom, and my nieces were just like her everything, and it was like Pinterest worthy existence. And then when I had my children, I was a career woman. I was an entrepreneur. I was a visionary. I never had this idea that I was, only going to be a mother. I knew there was other parts of me. And so I had to really create these rules for myself. I was one of the first out of my girlfriends. I didn't have any other women around me at that time who were modeling what was possible. And so when I was with my kids, I was with my kids. And when I wasn't with my kids, I was head down building business. I was like in burnout mode for years before I even realized that I was in burnout mode because everyone just said, "Oh, you have kids and you work. That's just how you feel." So I carried that like a badge of honor for a long time. And then when the business started to do better and I started to relax and be like, "Oh, okay, like we already have this much money that's coming in next month. That I can like, whew, I can like take a minute. And that allowed me to start to, well, maybe I'm just going to sleep a little bit longer, or I'm going to not jump right into the workout right now. I'm going to sit and have a warm drink first. And I would do that, and the revenue wouldn't change. And in fact, it would get better. And now I'm at this stage and point in business where, we stay really consistent and steady. We don't have massive dips. I don't do anything to also create massive swells. Everyone around me right now is like, "Oh my God, you're on the brink of a swell. Like, please freaking put the things in motion to do it." And I'm like, "We'll see. Like, life is good." And, you get to a phase, hopefully, where you build a life that actually feels really luxurious outside of anything you have to own. Like, I have a very luxurious life because of the time liberation I've created for myself.
Thank you for sharing, like, your story and where you've been at and your nervous system with it. What about when you are in that place where it does feel like there's more pressure? There's more pressure to build, there's more pressure to make money. Like, as you were speaking, I remember in the early stages of my business when I had my business partner, my kids went to an outdoor daycare 3 days a week, and I was very much, like, with my in my business or with my kids, and so I was like, "If I'm paying for daycare, like, I better do things that are gonna make me money." I remember being so triggered by my business partner at the time. She'd be like, "Oh, maybe I'll just, like, meet up with you around 1. I'm just gonna go to yoga at 11." And I was like, "What the fuck? Like, no, we need to be productive right now. My kids are like, I've got this time." And when you're feeling that, like, pressure of time, making money, whatever it is.
I 100% live like that because there was a period of time where I was paying for daycare and I was only making enough to pay for daycare. So I was like, what am I doing? Everything I make is paying for daycare and I'm not actually bringing anything home. Like I lived that reality for a while as well too. What I started to do was I had to habit stack. So if I was doing something that was for work, I brought something else in that felt like it was for me. So that back in the day, that would have been like diffusing beautiful oils that like the smell made me feel really good. It would have been drinking that, matcha or whatever it was I was having while I was at my desk getting the work done. So I had to start to bring the stuff in that I loved that make me feel good and a little bit lighter while the work was still happening. And then it like over years, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, I should probably work today. like, I should probably do something, right? And get it in that. But that came from my own fortitude of doing that and also doing the work on myself, like working with other people who really would just call me out on my stuff. I think this is also when you build a business, you do need to build systems. So we have systems in place now. We have a lot of automation. We've emailed our community every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday for 12 years. Like our email marketing is down pat. We have a social system. Back in the days when I was very frenetic and so worried about productivity, I didn't have systems. I held the whole company manual in my brain. No one else knew what had to happen or how to do it. So I made myself have to have more work.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn through huge burnout, what can I release and let go? Who can I train? What can I do to get to this point? But there's times like we have a really big first time launch of something happening in the fall. It's, something I've never done before and I've been building it for a few years. It's going to require a different version of me and my energy and schedule for a season.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've found with this, and I have so much like resonance with everything you've shared there, but one thing I have with what you just said and like the different season is I actually know that I work really well like this. Like I work really well with some I'm gonna say like more intense periods and where it does require, more of me and more of my showing up. I really love to dance in these seasons like this. Haven't fully announced it yet to my community, but I'm taking the summer off, like the full summer off for the first time in I think that I ever have, with the exception of one mastermind call that I lead a week that's 90 minutes that like gives me life and the rest of the summer, I'm taking off. And that really excited me in the last couple weeks to decide like, this is what I'm going to do for the next 2 months before. And not again from this like, oh, if I want to take the summer off, I need to do this. But it's like, oh yeah, like this is the last program I'm going to run. And it got me more excited about some of the systems and the things that I'm putting in place. But I do think knowing that I actually like to work like that. I like to have a lot of spaciousness and then I like to like have times where I'm like really pouring my energy into this place. And before it was just like every day has to look the same and every day has to be this productive and every day has to be focused on scaling and every day you've got to be wearing the CEO pants. And I'm like, that's actually what was exhausting me, like thinking that I had to do it all the time versus I get to have these different seasons.
Yeah. I am the same with that, where if I can chunk down and I can batch, that for me is just like, I know I need to show up in this energy, that this is like, these are productivity days. Like, I only work Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in my business. Mondays are my day for what do I need to get prepared for? What kind of admin do I have to do? But I don't have to get into a meeting. I can stay in my robe all day if I desire to. I'm still working on my company. I'm just not inside of it. As we're Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I'm leading coaching calls. I'm teaching classes in my fitness studio online. I am, working with clients. I'm having team meetings. I'm doing interviews. And it's like interval training for me. Intensity, recovery. And I have a 3-to-4 ratio. It's intense for 3 days. I have 4 days of recovery. And I have found for me, that works so much better. I have some clients where they do better a little bit each day spread out. They don't have the engine or the stamina to go for 8 to 10 hours in one day. And so I also think be inspired by someone else's example, but you don't have to do that exact thing. So figure out what does work really well for you.
Hmm. I love that. Okay, you said two things. One you touched on today, one you spoke on the stage, and they're a bit of a different direction, but I want to touch on both of them here. You just kind of alluded to it when you said that I really remember from the day that I met you in person. We were driving somewhere and you were like, "Yeah, I was just with these group of women." And you're like, "They let you like kind of sit in your shit or your excuse or your story for like 7 seconds."
Yeah. So, I think we all have different communities that we're part of, and I believe we choose those communities on purpose. And I was in San Diego for a business mastermind that we like literally whipped together 3 weeks before. There were 6 of us that got together, and everybody had a hot seat coaching opportunity. And so it was like, explain to us what's going on, how you're feeling. So I explained my thing and I'm like in it. And they're like really listening and very present and taking in, and then just like, and that. And then it was like, okay. And then right away, just not calling me out because it wasn't like that. It was not aggressive. It was super loving. But like, what if it gets to be better than that? Like, what if that actually isn't the truth? What if the thing you're saying is really just how you're still protecting yourself? And that was the whole thing for me. Like, my whole thing was saying that I am just in this place of where when we grew steadily, and then when we grew, it was like, whoa. I wasn't prepared in my mind, in my vision, the romantic vision of, running $1 million and then multi-million dollar company. Like, you're like, oh my God, that would be the dream. And it is. And then you get there and go, oh, this is different. Like, so many things were different about that in terms of responsibility and team structure and just everything, like financial back end. And so for years, like for the last like 5 years, we've really just stayed in this swell where it's like we have systems, this is manageable, like we're doing great. I don't have this energy where I want to go 10x something, double down on it. Like, I've just really loved what it's been. And I can feel this like piece of me as I've been writing my new book, The Audacious Woman, where I'm like, oh, great. Like, I can feel it. Like, there's an elevation, something's coming. And I've had a hard time at really just saying yes and going for it. And they're like, why? Like, what is it you're so afraid of? And I said, I feel like I'm grieving this idea that I'm going to leave all of the women who have helped me build this organically from day one. That if I expand to this new level or this new horizon, that I'm somehow like ignorant on a level of like, I'm just leaving them behind. They won't be able to afford the offer. The offer won't be who they are anymore. And so this was like the belief that I had. And they say all the things that any good, listeners and coaches would say, which is like that they want you to grow. They're waiting for this next thing. They want to elevate and grow too. And the realization that I had coming out of that event, which I had this aha moment when one of the other speakers was on stage at this event you and I were at, as I was like, she said something. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the story I've been holding on to was that I would be leaving behind the women who have helped me create this, when in fact, I'd be leaving behind the woman that I was who helped me create this. So it's like, the grief I've actually been struggling with is leaving behind a version of myself that I'm so grateful for. And if I accept this next invitation to elevate and expand, will I still be able to hold who I am intact? Will I still be able to have the spacious mornings and not start till 9:30 or 10? Will I still be able to feel the way that I feel? And here's the tricky part about expansion is there is no guarantee. Like, no one can guarantee me what it's going to look like, but it could actually be better.
Mm, it could actually be better. And
Yeah.
so, is this something that you're leaning into right now? Are you leaning into the thought that it could be better? Or do you feel like that's like now that you had that like moment, or you're like, oh yeah, like it gets to
Yeah,
be.
my girlfriend Sam says the better it gets, the better it gets. So when I start to feel that like come in, I just say, the better it gets, the better it gets. It's interesting. Like, I've really realized this about myself. Everybody around me is like, you move fast, you're doing so much that. And I'm like, if you lived inside of me, you would realize I actually move like a tortoise in terms of decision making. Like, I'm quite slow riding the emotional wave of like really feeling my way into it. And sometimes that's probably to a fault where it's like I need to just pull the trigger and make the decision and go a little faster. I really feel like this trip we're taking as a family to Italy is going to allow me some space I've not had in quite some time. And I feel like when I come back, that is when my feet are going to hit this ground again and be like, and we're going.
Yeah. And I think it's this dance a bit too. You and I are both projectors, right? With emotional authority. I think we discovered that. And you said you move like a tortoise. I'm like, I tend to really move with my splenic hits, even though I'm an emotional authority. And so I tend to move really fast. And if I don't, that's often what puts me in the emotional wave. But one thing that I've noticed for myself is there's times I'm feeling called to like move fast and follow those splenic hits. And there is times that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I've actually, like, get to slow it down a bit." It's, like, not being in that, like, forward, forward, forward,
Yeah.
forward, and this has shifted a lot how I run my business, and at times, this means when the energy is there and I, like, wanna do something right away, I mean, I've been really known to sell things. I'll be like, "Hey, this idea is here, like, come in. It's July, and we're not starting until January." because I have the energy to like bring forward the idea and the essence of it. And it was like training myself to like really let it build and let myself speak freely about it as it builds as well.
Yeah, I used to be the one that made the quick decisions and do that. And I think the reason I don't do anymore is like I built a very wide business, meaning we had a lot of different streams of revenue and programs. And then that just got too much to manage. And so, me saying quick yes and like creating this and let's go, and I've got a feeling and I want to offer it, it served me for a period of time until it started to make me feel like I was burning out. And I was starting to actually get quite resentful for what I had created. So, I needed to contract it and go more through the depth as opposed to the width. So, when I get these, like, oh my God, I want to do that, I pull it apart and I'm like, but why? And then how would we do that? And when would we fit it in the calendar? That probably is to a fault now of like not going in and just trusting, but it's also different in that it's not just about me. I have a team. I have an editorial calendar. I have a director. Like we have things set in motion where if I were to constantly be changing, it wastes a lot of time and energy of other people. So I'm really in this interesting place in entrepreneurship in my journey where I am trying to figure out what the right now sweet spot feels like.
And that's part of it, right? That navigation, and playing with that and exploring that and what actually comes back to like what feels good to me, what feels good for my team, not plugging into this is what I need to do or should do, or this is what's been modeled, this is what I've been, taught. It's like what actually works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing I did want to touch on with you is that piece where you said the grieving was actually about leaving yourself behind,
Mm.
not clients
Yeah.
behind. And you and I talked on this in a bit of a different way in the podcast we recorded for your podcast, but like staying, attached to a version of you and really giving yourself that permission to grow and evolve and for your offerings to grow and evolve and the way you lead to grow and evolve and for your truth to grow and evolve, like all of it.
Something that I've really only begun to realize the more I talk about this out loud is that we create space for ourselves as individuals to change and embrace a new way when things are not going well. In fact, we're seeking it and we're craving it. But when things are going well, when things seemingly look like, why would you change anything? That's where I think it can be more of a challenge to embody what that next level energy offer program, whatever the thing is in your life. And that has been very true for me. When things aren't going well, I can pivot quickly. I see things so much sooner than other people where I'm like, we need to change this. And they're like, why? And I'm like, just trust me. Because in 6 months, everyone's going to need to change it. So we're going to change it right now. But when things are going great, that's just where more of the limiting beliefs and more of the excuses pop up.
Mm. That's so fascinating for me. And I feel like I'm like, we could open a whole like different conversation because I'm someone who, when things are working and I don't feel it anymore, like that's when I tend to shift. I'm like, I move very quickly and it's just like, I just know because I know. And that's where I move. And as you said that, I'm like, it's actually when things aren't working that I try to hang on a little longer.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I honestly have zero attachment to the word failure or the energy of failure. Like, I'm like, who cares if it doesn't work? Like, this thing right here doesn't feel like it's working anymore for different reasons. So I'm like, let's just start to sunset that. Let's dive our energy into this. Or it's not even that we're stopping a program or changing it. It's like, but we have to change the way we're talking about it. Who are we talking to in this? How are we running this? So I have no problem editing things and changing, direction and changing my mind. It's way more painful for me to try to continue to squeeze energy and life out of something where I'm like, this just isn't it. This just is not it. But I also like, I'm at a time in my life where I really appreciate comfort and stability and steadiness. And I don't know if it's because I'm also an earth sign and I'm a little bit of a homebody. And I've really realized that my whole life was told I was such an extrovert. And, even when you talk about human design, when 2017 and my girlfriend brought it to me, she goes, I know you're a Manny Jen, but I just want to run the chart on you. And then when she ran my chart and she's like, so You have to change everything. You're going to die if you keep living like this. And I was like, why? And she's like, you're a projector. I had no idea what that meant. But as she explained everything to me in my chart, and I've worked with so many people since then on human design and gene keys and astrology. And I take it, but I take it with a grain of salt. I don't define my life and my decisions by it. But what's so interesting is when I understood what it meant to be a projector in my chart specifically, the level of relief that I felt, like relief and permission, where I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Why I burn out and I need more rest and then I come back, and these cycles and like just literally everything. It to me, oh my God, I wouldn't say define your life by it, but if you can understand more about who you are through that lens when you're building anything, your life, your relationships, your business, being a mother, like grab a hold of it.
Yeah, fully. And then I feel like this brings us back to like the beginning of the conversation, whatever it is. It's like it could like use the tools to support you and don't let it put you in like the box.
Exactly. Yeah. Because none of us are fitting in the same box, and we even shouldn't be trying to, right? Like this is the whole thing is you can witness somebody else have incredible results doing something and that because that was at the right time for them in their moment in life. And you can borrow from those things, but it doesn't mean that you are going to have the exact same outcome because none of us are the same. Even like my best girlfriends, like that we are like literally cut from the same cloth. As much as we are similar, we are also so different, and that is, one of the things that we love so much about one another.
Yeah. I love that so much. I love this whole conversation. I love just like the simplified. I feel like you and I really resonate with that. It's like, can I make this simpler? Can I make
Yeah.
this, you know, like we get so complicated in the way that we look at things and the way that we operate. So, any last words of wisdom on the simplified life?
I really think like, you talked in our podcast that we had about a book came into your life called Conversations with God. And I wish that the book existed for women that was Conversations with Myself. And I think if we every day had a conversation with ourselves, doesn't have to be a big one, can just be a little check in. For you, it was like the dot where you were putting it above or below in the graph of like, where am I in alignment in my life? Honestly, just asking yourself every day, like, how do I actually feel? And if it is less than optimal and there's something going on, acknowledging that, not trying to, brush it under the rug. And then also seeking out counsel, seeking out a coach, working with someone who can actually help you pull all of the pieces together. Make everything make sense to the way where you feel super empowered by what's going on, not a victim to what is going on. And far too many women nowadays feel a victim to their body. They use words like I'm broken, my body is against me. If there was no such thing as bad luck in my body, I'd have no luck. I'm like, you have to be so cognizant of the words you're using because they cast energy and it's like an energy boomerang that you are throwing out there into the world. Get honest with yourself about how you're feeling. Get honest with yourself about the tools and resources you already have that are free around you, like your water, like your shoes you can put on to go for a walk outside for free, good quality, nourishing meals, like all of those things that are the simple, foundational, boring basics. I specialize in boring basics. Most women will walk all the way around working with me to try and avoid it because they know that the things that I'm going to recommend are actually going to be what change their life. And we talk about wanting to have a life well lived and a changed life, but very few are willing to actually do the things required to change their life. And it's way more simple than you think.
Oh man, it's so wild because I mean, I'm smiling over here. We share so much in this as you were talking about words. Like my audience has been hearing me talk about it. One of my programs is called Words Are Spells. And it's literally like, what are the words that we're using? But this last piece here, the amount of clients that work with me and they come in and they tell me after they're like, I had so much resistance to your work. I had so much resistance, saw you, like didn't want to come in and work with you, kept feeling pulled. And it's like, because you make it sound easy, you make it sound simple. It's like being, being in your power and being in this level of awareness and willing to sit in sacred witness of ourselves. And what are you willing to choose and not willing to choose? And they know that they're going to have to, confront the things that they just like want to keep hidden, that they want to like not really look at. And I do bring in like you said there, it's like it gets to be simpler but we like want to be on these like highs and this, this energy. It's like coming back home to self and moving from there.
Yeah, because if you're chasing that, like, high and the brand new thing and that like, there is going to be a low on the other side of it. So instead of, like, chasing the high, just, like, maybe a little bit higher so that when you fall off of it or life just happens, you're the fall, quote, unquote, "back down," like, it's kinda just right below there. It's not so dramatic. You don't feel like, "Oh my god, I gotta wait till Monday again." The reason people feel like that is they try and change their entire life, and they create so much, in terms of like rules of discipline and, depriving and taking away their opportunity to choose, that it's so freaking hard to uphold that. You are automatically setting yourself up to feel like you fail. And then when you fail, you feel like you feel hard. And then you got to reboot yourself. Like, just stop the cycle. 1 to 2 small, simple new habits, get those in place, whether you're talking health, business, structure, whatever it is, and start to lead from there.
Mm, so good. And okay, last question. I feel like you snuck this in, but we didn't really dive into it. Your book, The Audacious Woman. Tell me more.
Mm. Yeah. So this is my fourth book. The other three books I wrote were all about health and wellness and hormones. And The Audacious Woman is really about the woman who is at the intersection of life, where she no longer wants to feel pulled in the multiple directions. She wants to really bring it all together. And this is her business, body, and her life. And so the manuscript is due at the end of August. The book will go to audio. I'm going to be recording in the fall, and then it'll fully release beginning of 2027.
I cannot wait already to then be on the lookout for that. I just finished my writing my second book. And so definitely like knowing in that process of all how that all unfolds
Yeah.
and comes out. But I mean, just even as you said the words, the audacious woman, I remember you saying it when we met and then hearing it again. I'm like, yes, yes, more, please.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. So thank you. And thanks for having me today. I've enjoyed this.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you for coming and sharing all of your wisdom and where's the best places for everyone to find you?
So the only place I hang out is on Instagram. So it's at Jenn Pike. And then I have my podcast, The Simplicity Sessions. I'm also Jenn Pike on YouTube. And yeah, those are the best places to just be in the sphere of what it is that we've got going on.
Awesome. Well, we'll share it all below. And I'm excited for you and I to have recently met and to connect it and to do both of these podcasts and
Yeah.
just can't wait for more.
Yes, me too.